You just bought Bitcoin, and now it is down 50%. What do? Because in that moment, it does not feel like a normal decision. It feels like you got it wrong. It feels like you need to act. And the part nobody tells you is that what you do next will probably define your entire experience with Bitcoin. I'm Sats, and this is episode 7 of questions I was too embarrassed to ask. Let's keep it simple. Before anything else, let me say something that sounds obvious but matters more than anything that follows. A 50% drop after you buy does not mean you made a wrong decision. It means you bought Bitcoin. Bitcoin has dropped 50% or more multiple times in its history. From its all-time high in late 2021, it fell more than 70%. In 2018, it fell over 80%. In 2022, it fell nearly 70%. Every one of those drops recovered. The price went on to reach new highs after each one. That is not a promise about the future. It is context about the past. And context is the thing you most need in the moment when the number on your screen is telling you a story that feels like catastrophe. Now, what should you actually do? Step 1. Do not sell immediately out of panic. This sounds simple, it is not. When you are down 50% on money that is real to you, the emotional pressure to make the pain stop is significant. Selling feels like taking control. It feels like a rational response to a bad situation. What it actually is, most of the time, is locking in a loss that did not have to be permanent. The people who lost money in every major Bitcoin crash were not the ones who held. They were the ones who sold at the bottom and either stayed out or bought back in higher. If you sell during a 50% drop, you need Bitcoin to drop another 50% from where you sold, just to break even on a rebuy. That is not a strategy. That is compounding a mistake. Step 2. Ask yourself the question that actually matters. Not what is the price going to do? Nobody knows that. Not was this a mistake? That question is unanswerable in the middle of a crash. The question is this: have the reasons you bought Bitcoin changed? Think about why you bought it. The fixed supply, the decentralized network, the case that this is a legitimate long-term store of value. Have any of those things changed because the price fell? No, the supply is still fixed. The network is still running. The case for Bitcoin is entirely intact. The only thing that has changed is what someone is willing to pay for it today versus what they were willing to pay when you bought. Price and value are not the same thing. A 50% drop in price does not mean Bitcoin has become 50% less useful or 50% less scarce. It means the market is being emotional. Markets are emotional. Bitcoin's market especially so. If this is the kind of honest Bitcoin conversation you are looking for, the subscribe button is right there. Step 3. Recalibrate your position size if you need to. Here is the honest version of this step, which most content skips. If a 50% drop is causing you genuine distress, the kind that affects your sleep or your daily thinking, there are two possible explanations. Either you are new to this and your emotions are catching up with an intellectual decision you made before you felt the volatility. That is normal, and it gets easier. Or you have more money in Bitcoin than you can genuinely afford to hold through this kind of movement. If it is the second one, the answer is not to sell everything. It is to sell enough that the remaining position feels manageable, not comfortable. Bitcoin is not comfortable, but manageable. The goal is to end up with a position you can hold through another 50% from here without making reactive decisions. Because another 50% from here is always possible. Step 4. Stop checking the price so often. We covered this in a previous video, but it bears repeating here. Every time you check the price during a crash, you are not getting useful information. You already know it is down. Another check does not change that. What it does is expose you to another dose of the bad feeling, which makes the emotional pressure to act stronger without giving you any better basis for acting. 1 check per day. Set a time, stick to it. The price will be whatever it is when you look. Checking it 12 more times will not make it higher. Step 5. Let time work. This is the least satisfying answer and also the most accurate one. Bitcoin's track record across 17 years is that significant drops resolve given enough time. Not immediately. Not on a schedule you can predict. But eventually. The people who held through every major crash and did not sell are, almost without exception, ahead of the people who tried to time their way through it. You cannot control what Bitcoin does in the next 3 months. You can control whether you are still holding it in 3 years. That is where the decision actually lives. Here is the one thing I want you to hold on to when the number on your screen is making everything feel urgent. Urgency is the enemy of good decisions in Bitcoin. The market wants you to feel like you need to act right now. You almost never do. The decision that needs to be made is usually the one you make before you buy, about how much you can genuinely afford to hold through the worst. If you made that decision honestly, then a 50% drop is just time passing. Uncomfortable time, but time. Quick recap before you go. A 50% drop after buying Bitcoin does not mean you made a mistake. It means you own Bitcoin, which has dropped this much and more, multiple times, and recovered each time. Do not sell out of panic. Selling locks in a loss that does not have to be permanent. Ask whether the reasons you bought have changed. They have not. The price changed? The case did not. If the drop is causing genuine distress, check whether your position size is actually manageable rather than just theoretically acceptable. Check the price less often. Urgency is the enemy of good decisions. Let time work. You cannot control the next 3 months. You can control whether you are still here in 3 years. If you want to understand the strategy that makes drops like this feel less like emergencies and more like scheduled discomfort, the dollar cost averaging video covers exactly that. It is the approach that removes the single entry point problem entirely. Watch that next. Stack smart, stay curious. See you in the next stack.